to our pod. And by that, I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who are doing a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now, we are shiting on the Wheel of Time, and we are discussing the women in the 13th novel of The Wheel of Time by Brandon Sanderson and Robert Jordan. And I have forgotten the name of it. Is it Towers of Midnight still? Thank you. So we will be closing up our discussion on the 13th book. But before we get into that, Laura, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So remember last time we recorded and you said, oh, your voice was like cracking out. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm losing my voice. Or I have a sore throat. I lost my voice. I was sick. Wasn't COVID. I took a test. But I was sick like last weekend. And I ended up reading, Scribd recommended it to me. And I had also seen somebody post about it on Instagram. I can't remember who it was. But Scribd recommended You Better Be Lightning by Andrea Gibson.
Okay.
It's a poetry collection.
Nice.
And it was kind of one of those things where like I was sick that day, and so I was sleeping a lot, and I was like kind of just like waking up, and then I'd read for a little bit, and then I'd watch something, and then I'd sleep for a while, and then I'd wake up. And I read it all in one day, which usually I don't do with poetry. I kind of like to like sit with it a little more.
Yeah.
Where you read something and then come back to it and read something, come back to it. And also with poetry, I tend to be one of those people that likes to have the physical copy instead of the ebook. So it was a little bit different to have it on Scribd, but I'm considering going and buying this book because it was excellent. It was one of the best poetry collections I've read in a long time.
Wow.
And I just really loved how relatable and heartbreaking and also funny, and the collection was amazing. Andrea Gibson is also goes by Andrea Gibson. They're an amazing poet. I followed Instagram like instantly, and they post all sorts of like little pieces of their poetry and just funny things. I subscribe to their newsletter because they send out this newsletter of things that don't suck, and it's just a really fun thing, a really positive thing. And I just really like this collection. People check it out.
That's
it's
awesome.
Great. So poetry is something that I don't read often, but when I do, I usually really enjoy it. Maybe I'm just reading the right poets, but right. I remember like in high school, we had to one time read, I think it was collections of like famous poets. We had to pick like a famous poet and then kind of like write our own poem or something like that. I'm terrible at writing poetry, but I remember I think I had to read like Emily Dickinson or something. And so that's like poetry that's really easily consumable, but I was terrible at writing poems, but I do really like every now and then reading poetry. And this is National Poetry Month. So that's why Scribd was pushing them pretty hard, I think.
Got it.
They get into all the themed months. But yeah, it's a really great collection. Totally recommend, and definitely check them out on Instagram and wherever you can find them, Twitter, I'm sure, and their website and their newsletter is really good too. So check all those things out. And then I watched all of Heartstopper, and I love it so much. I love it so much.
Laura read the graphic novels of Heartstopper. Hannah did not, but Hannah did watch it. And it was like a really good, even though I haven't read the graphic novels, it was a really good adaptation of graphic novels, I thought. Like the way they do like little artwork.
There's some different things, and I like the graphic novels more still, but I mean, I thought it was so well done and so cute. And the way that Charlie and Nick look like the cartoons is amazing to me.
That's amazing.
I can't get over how similar. I'm like, this is what they should look like if you were to take a cartoon of them and make it into people, that's what they would look like. They found the exact people.
For people who are wondering, Heartstopper is a graphic novel series that they just did a TV series adaptation on Netflix.
Alice Oseman is the author illustrator. So
thank you for that. And it's about a boy who is gay, and he gets a crush on a guy in one of his classes, and it's about them like starting a friendship and then maybe a romance. And it is so adorable.
But there's lots of diversity in the graphic novels, and they tried really hard to bring in diversity in the TV show. It's not quite as much as there is in the graphic novels, but I mean, it's hard to do adaptations 100%. So,
I will say, like, I do like that Nick is not like, he's a rugby player, so he's kind of built like a rugby player. One critique I did have for the TV series, I have not read the novels. The only teen that doesn't really get a romance story is the one plus size kid who's a main character, and he just reads in the background. And I just love that
character in. I think that's the Aled character in the books, but they don't really have a romance in the books either.
Yeah, I just don't love that, like, the one plus size person just like sits there and watch all, as the person who was that person in high school, not a great look all the time to be like having all your skinny friends getting dates. That was a little sad for me. But that's my one big critique of it. But everything else was very cute and I loved it a lot. So Laura, tell me your favorite part about the adaptation.
I think my favorite thing was honestly Nick and his mother at the end. Like, this is huge spoilers for anybody that's not seen it. I'm so sorry, I ruined Heartstopper for you all. But there is a coming out moment, and it's so wholesome. And the way that Nick's mom accepts him immediately is just great.
I know, it's very sweet. The character who plays his mom is Olivia Colman, and I love her so much. So I thought that she did a spectacular job. I also really appreciate
it. Was really a minor role for her, but she really owned it.
She did. No, and I also really appreciate that, like, oh my gosh, Charlie, his dad and his relationship, like, it wasn't always there, but when they showed it, it was really heartfelt. And like, you could tell the dad really cared about him. And he also has a sister who is hilarious because she just pops up out of nowhere and like she makes you laugh
series too
every time.
I think they really captured how the show is about Charlie and Nick, but that their families are very supportive and care about them deeply.
Yeah.
But they're not mentioned as much in the series as well. So I think they did a good job of kind of showing that caring, but also like, this is about Charlie and Nick. This isn't about the mom and dad. So that was good.
We just noticed the more adult characters because we are adults.
Yeah.
But it is mostly about just them being cute. I also really enjoy like watching teenager, like, it was just so cute to watch teenagers be like wholesomely adorable.
Yeah.
I just enjoyed them so much because they look like teenagers.
Well, I think they are teenagers, aren't they?
I'm sure they are, but I mean, like, a lot of shows, like,
a lot of times it's like people kids that are 30 and past, because there are 30-year-olds, self-included, that could possibly pass as high schoolers. But it's on the brink where it's like, okay, you look old for a high schooler, but you just are a young looking 30-year-old. But these are actual, so they're age appropriate actors.
They're both 18, so they filmed this when they were probably 17.
Sure.
So it's very cute. I recommend everyone go watch it. It's very light and heartfelt.
I think teens need more wholesome shows like this that depict real life events, but are also positive and just extremely wholesome.
I've noticed post-pandemic there have been a lot more heartfelt, or shows that don't take, like, they're not super dark, they're a little bit more like surface level drama, and honestly kind of here for it. My brain could use a break. I don't need 24/7 reality all the
Isn't that funny though, that like during like the beginning of the pandemic though, like there was just a lot of TV that was just like shocking, like people were obsessed with Tiger King and things like that are just like so out there. And now the stuff that we're putting out, as we're hopefully making our way to a non-pandemic situation, is very like, we need things that are positive. We need things that are showing the best sides of humans.
Yes, I agree.
Not the Joe Tiger King sides.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough.
Hannah, what have you been reading and watching?
Well, I'm gonna hold off on some of the things I've been reading because I'm about to start Mega May, so we're gonna need Hannah to not just talk about that journey. We can do like
I've been reading
updates,
some other stuff too, but I haven't finished anything, so I was gonna hold off till next week on that.
Well, in the last week of not recording, Hannah just read a ton, so I've read like 6 books since we last spoke.
Wow.
6 books since we last. 3 of them are graphic novels. We'll discuss those at a later date. But I've just read a lot. Do
you want to drop some names? You don't have to.
I'll go through my 2 that I didn't love this week. Okay. I read The Plot by Jean Humph Kurelitz. I gave it 2 stars. It was kind of
I've never heard of this one.
Okay, so it's about this guy who like wrote a book that was kind of famous at one point, but he's kind of washed up. He couldn't write. He like wrote a collection of short stories for a second novel. And so then he starts like teaching, and this guy comes in and he's like, I have a great plot. It's better than any plot ever. And he tells him, and he's like, oh my God, that's a great plot. And then he finds out like a year or 2 later, maybe it's like 2 to 3 years later, that guy died before he could write the book. So he takes what that guy told him for the plot and writes it himself, and then like becomes like super famous. Everyone loves this book. Everyone reads it. And then like someone starts like sending him messages like, you're a thief, you plagiarized, da 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 da. It just wasn't that good, in my opinion. People love this book. It was all over Bookstagram. I bet if you see the cover, you would recognize it.
Is this supposed to be a thriller, or
I think so? It's supposed to be kind of a thriller. Like boring. It's just like really predictable if you know how like stories work. I'm like, well, this is obviously what's happening. And there's also like a sphere of sometimes this is really hard, and like they make a joke about it in Daisy Jones and the Six, which I'm sure I've said on this podcast before, where it's like, oh great, you told us that she wrote the best album ever, and now we're creating a TV show around it, and we have to create this great album with these lyrics you wrote down. Like, awesome. And in this book, they show you different portions of the book so you know what the plot was. And like the book is fine. It's a straightforward thriller. Like the book within a book, I'm like, this isn't life-changing. Like, it's not as, it's a James Patterson novel with a pretty good plot twist at the end, you know? And like, once you knew the plot twist, like I kind of saw the plot twist coming. It seemed a little ridiculous. And then like everything about the book was just predictable to me. So I just didn't enjoy it. And like, this author seems very well written, but sometimes for this type of novel, I want it to be a little bit trashier with the way it's written. Like it felt a little too bloviated, I guess.
You ever think that like sometimes authors try too hard to sound like really smart and fancy, and sometimes you just want them, especially with novels that are depicting like average Joes or like normal working people, you're like, okay, can you just dial it back a couple notches and make the speech a little more
well? And like the story within a story, if they had made that the actual novel, it would have been more interesting because you're actually looking at dynamic of people. But like this author specifically chose to write about this like white man who was kind of whiny, and I'm like, why do I care about him? Like this doesn't matter. Yeah, there's so much of this going around. Like, why are we talking about this? Like, it just doesn't seem great. You could have written the actual thriller and it probably would have done a little bit. I mean, this book did really well, but to me, it would have worked better if they had done it that way. And I just didn't enjoy it. And like, yeah, I get it because Laura has written or read some of my writings and she's always like, Hannah, college students do not talk like this. So like, I get it. It's hard sometimes, but it just wasn't for me. And then the other book that I gave a 1 star to, and Laura was shocked by, Laura, Laura texted me, she was like, you gave this book a 1 because she had read it.
Okay, so like I have one friend on Goodreads. It's Hannah.
Me.
So like every now and then when I go on to update, like usually when I go on to update Goodreads, you'll see like, oh, there's a giveaway for you or whatever, but every now and then when I go on to update, it'll have like post updates and they're all Hannah.
Fair enough.
I mean, it'll be like Bruce and Books did this, Bruce and Books did this, Bruce and Books did this. And if I don't look at the dates on it, it's usually rather shocking to me because I'm like, oh my gosh, she finished 8 books in a day. But
that's never true.
But it's just the timing of me getting on Goodreads and the way that they post these. But I got on the other day and I saw several of those posts, but like the first one was a 1 star. And I was like, what?
Yeah, because it's a Tessa Bailey, and Tessa Bailey, people really like her in the romance world, and it's called Fix Her Up. It's part of like a series she wrote from 2019 to 2021 in a very short span. So there are 3 books, quick succession, and it's called Fix Her Up. And I hated this book. I prefaced this to Laura when I ranted about this book that some of the themes I want to be very careful how I critique this book because I'm not critiquing this type of romance existing. I'm critiquing how Tessa Bailey wrote this type of romance. Sure. And this is about a young girl who's like 23 and she's always been in love with her brother's best friend who's like much older and was like, well, he's 28, not much older, but he was like a famous baseball player. And then he got an injury. So he had to move back home because he can't play anymore. And he's really depressed and lots of family issues. And she like barges into his house one day to try to like fix him, I guess. And so like they start hanging out a little bit more. There's fake dating involved, but also, and again, I'm not knocking this as a romance trope. She is a virgin. And there are a lot of problematic things that come with this particular book where like anytime they have a discussion about sex, they are in the middle of foreplay, which is not the right time to discuss
things,
sex and what you're comfortable with, because it can, and it's like pretty coercive what's going on when he tells her certain things. And I understand that in the context of the book, it's supposed to be romantic. It's not, it's coercive. It's gross. I didn't like it. He's incredibly jealous. She hits him with the door at one point when she's supposed to be going on a date, and he fakes it hurting worse so she won't go on the date, which is controlling. And like at one point she makes this group of like, it's called the Just Us League, and it's supposed to like women putting women first. Fine, whatever. It's second wave feminism. I get it. But like randomly her sister-in-law wants to join, but the sister-in-law only is like a stay-at-home person for her husband and like makes him all his meals. She's incredibly contrived as someone who stays home, like just bakes all day, just makes like chicken and kicks a fuss when he forgets to take it to work and gives him the silent treatment. And then like there are 2 scenes where the brother barges into their other sister's house 2 times, grabs his wife, throws her over his shoulder, and stomps out because she left when they like had a small fight and he had hopped in the shower. This happened 2 times.
Why is he grabbing her?
Because they were having a fight and she left, and she can't do that. They were having a discussion, Laura. It was just weird, incredibly problematic, and I hated it so very much. And like the main character, she's great. I loved her. He was a ball of trash. And like the reasons why he has tons of issues, I guess, is like his dad was mean and an alcoholic, but also they have like a ton of instances where like he's hitting the bottle pretty hard and it's never discussed as like a worry for him. And like, it's just really weird. And like, he's incredibly depressed, but like she fixes him pretty much, which is also not how that works, by the way. No, you don't get fixed through the version of love.
Trope of I can fix them that is in so many TV shows and movies and books where it's like, I know what I'll do. I'll fix a person. And no, how about we don't say we fix people? We don't do that.
And at like some point she literally says like, I think I could fix him and how he doesn't want to be in a relationship if I'm just a good enough girlfriend because they're fake dating. And it's like, that's an incredibly toxic thing to put like, because the thing is like, hey, get it. Romance novels should have virgins in it sometime. Perfect. Sure. Virgins deserve romance too. You know, I don't give a shit about that. But like, if it's a girl who is a virgin, who reads this as one of her first exposures into romance, it's kind of dangerous. Like, I just, it bothered me on multiple
Especially
levels.
if like the target audience is going to be like young people of this age. You don't want them to be getting the idea that this is a normal relationship
idolizing
situation.
Especially when this girl's 23 in the book. So she is a young girl in these books. And like these relationships are not supposed to be seen through a romantic lens. Like you even if you want like I said, if you had one where whatever, it can be a little reductive. I don't need it to be like the most progressive romance novel of my life. But I can tell the difference between like, this is something that's not for me. And this is something I view as not okay. And this was something I viewed as not okay.
And
like, he's also called Two Bats. I'm sure you can understand the euphemism. He is a baseball player.
Would you be able to explain it?
He has a very large penis, Laura.
I was just helping out the listeners.
So it was just, there was a lot of issues with it. And
have you read any other books or no?
No, I'm gonna try one more.
Who was the author again?
Tessa Bailey.
Okay.
Yeah, she did like the summer catch one that everyone
I was gonna say,
and...
I think I've seen, she has like a blue book or something, like it happened in summer or something like that. Isn't that one of them? Okay.
It happened one summer. That's the one.
It happened one summer.
Yeah. Also, one last thing about this book and why it was problematic. This guy often uses like language that I just found so dangerous, where he would be like, look what you did to me, look what you made me do, which is and like it was always in terms of like them when they're like whatever between the sheets, but also don't use language that definitely an abuser uses in their everyday life to show that it could be sexy and romantic. Like there's such an easy way of fixing it to be like, you turn me on so much. Like it can be they are an active participant, but like, look what you made me do is blaming. And that's not the same thing. And it was really gross. There was also, this is a small nit, but it had dirty talk, and dirty talk makes me laugh no matter what on the page. It's just, it's funny. It's like, like I'm always sitting there being like, that's not a great thing to say right now.
Those, whenever there's dirty talk in like books, I always think of the Seinfeld episode where Elayne is talking to that caller on the phone. It's Peter Dinklage is the voice because he has a sexy voice. It just cracks me up because she's so in love with him because of his voice. She can never get a hold of him, figure out who he is, but it's a good episode of Seinfeld.
Is a great voice, so I get it a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
great looking man too. So.
I was gonna say it's all there. So
we've talked about this. The whole Cyrano movie is like, who wouldn't want to be with Peter Dinklage? Right? It doesn't make sense. And to have a main character, the romantic lead, be named Travis is just not okay. That's the main character's love interest. His name is Travis.
They must be from rural Illinois if their name is Travis.
No. But anyway, so those are two books that I will discuss this week.
I don't know how to feel about some books like that where it's like, do I know if people can separate them or separate whether or not this is a work of fiction that we shouldn't model relationships off of this or not? You know what I mean? And the notes on fine line.
In the notes on feminism in this book, Travis has zero personality outside Georgie. Like usually that's the other way around, but like he's always like walking up to her brother and being like, I'm sorry to tell you about me and Georgie dating. You're my best friend. And I'm like, are you? You two do not hang out enough. And you know very little about what's going on in each other's lives. I don't think you're best friends. I think you're just two men who grew up together and now you're dating his sister.
Yeah.
It's very strange. He has no personality.
This happens a lot in movies too, though, where I'm like, oh, you guys knew each other? You were actually friends? Like, okay. I guess I can believe it.
Every time he said, you're my best friend, all I could think of was Jamie Loftus on the Bechdel cast talking about Stuart Little, where it's like, Snowball, you're my best friend.
You're my best friend.
It's like
Steve Zahn's voice.
Steve Zahn going, you're my best friend.
You're my best friend.
So, yeah, I mean, that was the one good thing in this. But
it made me think of the Beckelcast, the best podcast
ever.
Famously, do not read books. Except Jane Austen.
Famously, except for Jane Austen. But really, they just listened to that on audiobook.
Still reading.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But yes. So yeah, Hannah read 2 books that were very blah. And she'll talk about other books when she gets into Mega May, and you guys don't have to listen to me just talk about reading Priority of the Orange Tree for 4 weeks.
Is that the only book you're going to be reading?
No, I will also be doing Babel by R.F. Kuang, which is coming out in August, but Laura and I will maybe be doing a bonus episode on it. So, because of course
I already pre-ordered it.
Yeah, you already pre-ordered it. And, we have a copy to share between the 2 of us. So Hannah's going to take the opportunity of Mega May to read through that. So Laura has until August to read it after I'm done.
Great things about it, though.
It looks amazing. We're really excited about it. Lots of people commented when I posted that I was going to be reading it. They're like, you have a hard copy? And I was like, oh, I sold my book account, our blog, Laura and I's podcast. I sold it all.
Hannah sold actually an organ.
Yes.
Disclose which one it was, but
it's private,
only
Laura.
Has one kidney.
Do not violate HIPAA. You violated no. Oh my goodness. Yeah, but anyway, so I'm doing Babel by R.F. Kuang, and then I will also be trying to read at least 3/4 of Vanity Fair, which it's my classical book of the year. Sometimes I try to read like a very specific classical book. Vanity Fair has been on a list for a long time for me to read. But I'm sticking to those 3 because I would have to read 75 pages a day to finish all 3 on time. Oh, wow. So I'm likely not going to be able to do that, and that's okay. It's more about getting into some of these big books, but my plans are to finish Babel and Priority, and then Vanity Fair is
a bonus.
Yeah, it's a bonus, and I'll like try to read through a big portion of it, but not all of it. I don't. Okay. It's a lot of pages, guys. It's a lot of pages. Yeah. And Laura, what will you be reading for maybe this time?
Well, I'm kind of doubling up because 2 of them are just slightly over 500 pages.
Laura's doubling up, guys.
Double dipping. Woohoo! But I am going to be reading The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
Nice.
So I started that, and I had heard so many great things about it, and I started it, and I got like 100 or so pages in. And then I just started reading other things and was more into them at the moment, even though the words and the writing were like beautiful in this book. I just got more into other books. I think that was my Heartstopper period. Where
is that a lot? Is that a lot like your T Swift, like Lover Evermore?
Maybe. I don't know. I don't think I was into Taylor Swift at that time, but
fair.
I can dip in and out of T Swift at any moment. But yeah, so then the other book I'll be reading is The Starless Sea by gosh, I can't even think of it now. Erin
Morgenstern. I had to look up because The Starless Sea is literally on my floating shelf above my head.
And that one I started last year. I think I mentioned it on the podcast, even that I was really liking it. And then I don't know if I just hit a slump or what the deal was with that book, but I just stopped reading it. And I made over halfway in that one and stopped. And then the third book I'm going to be reading is The Red Wolf Conspiracy by Robert V.S. Reddick. And that was one that I won. Yeah, I won an FTF's giveaway. So I have a special signed copy, and I started it, and I was going to participate in their read along. And then it was like holidays hit, and I was like, crap. And so then I kind of stopped reading a lot, so that I never jumped back on that one. So those are the 3 I'm going to be reading. 2 of them are just slightly over 500 pages. So I'm going to count them for Mega May as well.
It counts as Mega May, 500 plus. So it counts, guys. Hannah made it very, very easy. Well, not easy. 500 pages is a lot, but I could have made it 600. And I was like, nope, 500 is a lot.
Which I was thinking about it, and I'm like, okay, just over 500 pages. Like that sounds scary, but when you consider that, like, I'm reading several books a month that are 300 pages, it's like, Laura, come on, just
I know.
Be better at math.
There is something in the mental thing of like 500 plus though, because that's how Storygraph like tracks. Because Storygraph gives everyone a pie chart if you don't use Storygraph, and it's less than 300, 300 to 500, and then 500 plus. So that's the categories. Like 500 is considered a lot. So I was like, 500 is the perfect cutoff. Storygraph agrees with me. I would have participated and maybe this time May, but Hannah famously reads every book she starts or she gives up on it entirely.
I was gonna say, you're not really much for DNFing though.
No, I can't tell you the last book I started and I was like, not right now. Like I won't let the book go. It'll just take me 2 months to read it. And that's how you could tell I wasn't feeling it, because I'll like read other things in between and be like, well, that's my hard copy right now. I'll pick up an ebook and read that too, because there's a reason for it, So I'm not a huge DNFer.
I don't mind DNFing where I am famous for checking books out from the library and like reading a little bit of them and being like, nope, this isn't working, and taking it back. So I don't have a problem with it. I know some people have to like push through, like and I get it. It's like I used to be like that too. I think when I was younger, where it was like, I have to finish this book, but it's just not worth it to me. Like if I'm not that into it, to be like, I have to finish it. I can't push myself to get through it. Sometimes I'll hate read something where if I really despise the book, I will push through.
That's fair.
I did that with Wally Lamb.
Oh my God, Wally Lamb. I know. I got rid of a Wally Lamb book recently. I don't know. I'm pretty specific on what I pick up. So there's not a ton. I support your DNFing. I think it's healthier.
And then, and like doing this maybe this time, there are instances where you start books, have all the intentions to read them and actually are enjoying them, but literally like life gets in the way or Heartstopper gets in the way and you have to set them aside.
Yeah, you just do. It's just how it works. No, I fully agree with you. I'm excited. I also am someone who, guys, it just takes me a while to read a book. Like I'm reading for Laura, like a couple different books for her birthday. And she was like, when I told her I was doing it for her, she immediately was like, Song of Achilles, done. That's going on there. You won't read it unless I tell you have to. So you're doing it. And it's like, yeah, that
I specifically chose a couple of books because I had like said them to you a million times, like read this book, read this book, read this book, and you're like, I will eventually. And I was like, if I don't take this opportunity to get you to read
never
Song of Achilles,
will.
You will never read this book. It'll just like keep staring at you from your shelf.
I don't know. I'm like this. I just am, guys. I'm just like, yeah, I'll read it eventually. I'll read all my books eventually. And then I just donated like 10 books where I'm like, I'm never going to read this. And I just like threw it. Oh my gosh.
I really hope you like this one though, because it's like one of my favorites. I really love the Song of Achilles.
I know. I read Circe for a book club.
Yeah.
So it's not even.
Circe is really good too, but I like the Song of Achilles more.
I get it. No, I
think I rated them both 5 stars, but
I am not opposed to reading any books. It just sometimes like I get sidetracked and it's really hard for me to put a book on a list, because if it's like one of those books that has gone on and off my reading list a lot, I'm always like other books somehow like wedge it all down. So that's Hannah's toxic
So this
trait.
happens to me too, where I would say I'm more of a mood reader, but I try to plan out what I'm going to read a little bit. And with the books that I have at home, so at the moment I do not have a bookshelf. So I'm like using a table, like a coffee table. It's very large, and I have all my books like stacked in this, and they're piled up everywhere too, because I have a pile next to my bed. I have a pile next to my recliner. Like there's piles of books everywhere in this house. But I will be like looking. I like to organize my books and reorganize them. Like I'll take them out and like kind of move them around and stuff. It's like one of my favorite activities. But I'll kind of like stack up the ones together. Like, okay, I'll read these ones next month. And I'll maybe start it, but then I'll come across another book in the library and be like, ooh, orange book, need it. I have a weird thing for orange and red books where I'm like, oh, I have to read it. It is an orange book or orange cover. I mean, that would be what I'd be interested in. I'm drawn to orange and red books. Interior Chinatown, like, get in my hand.
Not in purple. Laura's a purple person, guys.
Purple books.
It's just the red and orange ones.
Why? I always pick up red and orange books, but like I have noticed that I'll just have a plan sometimes, like, oh, I'll read these, but if something just kind of catches my eye off of this coffee table, it makes its way up.
I have a serious question. Are we only friends because I have red hair?
Perhaps.
I can't trust you anymore. Our podcast was started on a lie.
I mean, not the podcast, the friendship.
You know what you need? Because like I've been in Laura's living room. I know her coffee table she's discussing. Remember in our sorority how everyone had like those giant shelves that they put on top of their desk to like actually give them shelves and space? You need one of those just for the top of your coffee table.
Yeah, just like extend the coffee table, like make it a mega coffee
growing
table.
Up. Yeah, you need one of those. So
that's amazing.
Have your husband get on that. I just fixed many. Well, Laura's husband recently said she had too many books. And she texted me, and I very aggressively was like, "No, you do not have too many books. You just need a bookshelf to fit."
I know. Hannah understands. So, my husband can be rude. He said that the books. He told my dad that the books keep accumulating in our house, and I found that to be one of the most hurtful and rude things he's ever said to me, and I don't know how to take it.
Guys, I maintain that collecting books and reading books are two distinct hobbies, and I happen to be a connoisseur of both. So people need to get off my back about how many books I own.
I mean, honestly, I have several books over here that I just have not read even, and I just enjoy moving them around and like, okay, maybe I'll kind of sort them by genre this time. So this is nonfiction. Ooh, here's all the fiction books. Oh, here's fantasy. Laura,
I keep my books very organized in my head.
I mean, I kind of do that too, where it like makes sense to me, but if somebody else were to look at it, they'd be like, I have no idea what the system is.
My roommate one day walked in and she was like, "Where's people we meet on vacation?" And I was like, "Hold on." I knew exactly where to go to get it. So yeah, I recently rearranged all my books because like I said, I just got rid of a bunch that like people actually voted on. So thank you for voting on my Instagram on whether to get rid of a book or not. But I got rid of a ton, and just, I mean, not a ton. It was like 7, but I had to rearrange the books that live under my desk because I have like my desk is there's like a little ledge and you can fit a bunch of books under the ledge and they all have to be similar sizes or else it looks weird. So I was able to put some that I borrowed from Veronica under here.
Cool.
But yeah, Laura and I are collecting books, and get off our backs if we own too many. Laura doesn't own too many. It's Hannah. It's always Hannah. Hannah has a list and she owns 239
I own a lot
books.
Of things that a lot of them you could say I own too many of such thing, but books I don't feel are one of them.
I know.
Marie Kondo doesn't know what she's talking about either when it comes to books.
Guys, every single book brings me joy. Don't lie to yourself. Marie Kondo.
All of these things spark joy.
Guys, Marie Kondo came on the scene just rushing in hot. And then what happened? The pandemic. And people did not have things in their house anymore that probably would have brought them joy. So that's all I'm saying. I'm just preparing for the next pandemic. Knock on wood.
There we go. It's disaster preparedness.
I was at the movie theater tonight. Oh, I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once, and everyone should go watch it. Yeah. I'm not going to give you guys details because it's like an independent film. People love it. It's been everywhere. But I walked into it with very little knowledge. Very cool. Like there's like kung fu aspects. There's like, it's about a Chinese family. They're wonderful. I cried at one scene and it was amazing, and everyone should go see it. But I watched it in theaters, and it was great to watch it in theaters because like you get the experience of people laughing. It's very absurd in some of its scenes, and watching it in a room full of people was fun. But when I walked in, my roommate and I said something about like, well, the pandemic is over. And then I was like, oh my gosh, cinema gods, I was joking. I'm not trying to like call upon the pandemic again. Like this was a joke. I didn't mean it.
You say that, and then all of a sudden everyone in the theater is like,
please, no. I'm supposed to go into the office 2 days this week. But should we dive into the topic at hand?
Yeah, what was it again?
Well, we have to talk about Egwene, Nynaeve, and I guess Aviendha. And Moiraine.
Moiraine is married.
Moiraine is married. And yeah, Moiraine who shows up at the end and she's like, "Oh, Tom, I've always loved you." Okay,
I give up
my power
to be with you. Okay. Moiraine, don't do that.
Don't do that. even Tom's like, please don't do that, because then you're just going to turn into Gawain and it's going to be a whole thing. And like,
we can't take another Gawain.
No one should have to take another Gawain. Oh my God. This is just
I'm glad Moiraine's back though.
I know, finally.
It was cool.
Remember when you and I were like, maybe she'll be gone for like 3 books?
Oh, it was way too long.
So many books later.
I know.
Like, I'm back.
They should have rescued her way sooner.
They should have. I mean, Tom had that letter in hand the entire time. He could have just gone and got her, but
these people and their commitment to not opening letters is baffling. Like, if somebody gives me a letter and says, don't open it, you know what's going to happen? Like, the second they walk away, I'm finding the letter opener.
Also, don't hand someone a letter and say, don't open it. Then when they open it, it's like, I knew you were going to open it. So you told you not to open
a long time ago.
Yeah. That doesn't make sense. Ugh. You hurt everyone in what you just did, Varen, right from the grave. Like, made a huge issue.
Annoying.
That was very annoying. Did not like that.
No.
But yeah, Moiraine's back. Better than ever. Moiraine. And
hopefully it's not just like a situation where now it's like her and Tom are married and then we don't really hear from them anymore in the next book. But
it's like, hey, remember how Moiraine died and then we brought her back to the second to last book? She's gone now.
And now she's just not going to really do anything for the rest of the final battle. It's just going to be kind of boring. Hopefully not.
Let's hope not. I really hope not. I like Moiraine. I always did.
Me too. Hopefully she's not ruined by marriage.
I mean, isn't everyone ruined by marriage, Laura?
TV and movies and books would have you believe that nothing happens after you're married.
It's like, I'm in a very happy marriage. My husband is in the other room.
I just told him I was going to record and he was like, oh, you are? And I said, yeah. And he was like, oh, okay. And I was like, why? And he said, that means I can't do anything. I said, yes, you can. You just have to be silent.
What did he want to do?
I don't know what he wants to do. Probably watch TV, but
you could record in your bedroom and have him watch TV.
No,
why not?
I'm just, I could.
I like that you just monopolized the TV room for the last year. Yes. And he's finally like, I'm really sick of this. Can I watch Seinfeld again? I really
He'll be okay.
Well, apologize to your husband for me. Tell him I am fully supportive of you being kicked to the bedroom.
This is to help a lot of people. We're bringing a lot of people joy with this podcast, so he can make it.
Sure.
But you know, Moiraine and Tom, they're married.
They're married. She's kicking him out of the TV room. You know,
her powers are severely diminished.
I hate that so much. I hate this as a trope that every single woman in this book must
Only
suffer.
Women.
Only women.
Only women have this problem.
I mean, men lose body parts because obviously losing all your internal power is a horror for women, but men remaining the same amount of powerful just without an eye, that's the same amount of traumatic. I get it. Losing limbs is horrific.
I mean, they're both horrific, but the way that this book describes the connection to the one power and how it impacts your soul, basically, it's bothersome that never happens to any of the male characters.
Well, and it just does happen specifically to a lot of women that they lose something in themselves. Nynaeve is no longer the person she was before. She is just a shell of herself. Everyone was more powerful than her after they met her, but we never learn why. It's just because. And Moiraine Matt got to visit the Eilfin and Aelfin 2 times, and this is be his 3rd, and nothing but his eye got taken out, and Moiraine had to lose everything that made herself. So
yeah, I don't know how to feel about that except bad.
I think it's just I get sick of it being a trope for women, and like hope lots of fantasy novels don't do this anymore as much as they used to, because I do think it's a very easy trope to get into, to be like, well, what can we do to make a woman suffer? Take away all of her power or have her brutalized. Awesome. Great.
It was recently brought to my attention about a different book series. Someone on Instagram was telling me about problems with a different book series in fantasy and all the different problems with it. And I was like, yeah, these are all really bad things. And then as I was thinking about it, I was like, these are all present. All of these tropes are present in the Wheel of Time series. And I think that a lot of them are present in other fantasy series that I've read. And so I just wonder, what can we do what can writers do to make changes and make fantasy not have a lot of these issues?
I think a huge issue is that fantasy for a very long time, and that also involves like comic books and sci-fi, was often gatekept from anyone who was not a very particular race and gender. And everyone else had to like pass a test to be invited into the club. And again, it's like our criticisms about Jordan with the whole, like how he treats the like the Aiel or Tuon, where it's like anything that's not specifically Western in its way of writing is often seen as savage and seen through a very not great lens. And very very just like misses the point completely on like Western does not equal good. And I think until people destigmatize that in their mind and like play with it and understand and give it like proper due, it doesn't work. And so I do hope that with fantasy expanding to allow other people in, and like reading books by people who are not only white men or white women, it can help to enter into better themes and themes that are much more like thought out. And it's not going to be the same books over and over and over again, where it's like a group of white men go trotting into the distance to become heroes. Like, and I'm not digging against all these books, but like
most of them.
It's a lot of them, guys.
I think that, Hannah, that is the best way to move forward. I think that's the only way to see any significant changes, by not being gatekeepers and to actually expanding who we allow to have their books published. And I think that's definitely the best way to do it. But I also think this should be kind of like a call to action for a lot of authors who are well established to stop doing these things. People that are big names in fantasy or sci-fi, or I'm just going to specifically stick to fantasy or sci-fi because I think these are typically the most problematic when it comes to a lot of things like this. But this is like for people like Brandon Sanderson or George R.R. Martin, like people that are big names, like please be better about these things. Like we don't need this.
Right. And I think that's, yeah. And it's also about like, if you're an established name, promote other people. Authors. Yeah. Promote other authors. You have a seat at the table, invite other people into that table. Like, and I'm sure people are doing this. Lord, I have not researched it, but this is just our feelings. Where
I know for sure, like Patrick Rothfuss, just because I follow him on Goodreads, he's great about reading other authors' work, a lot of diverse books, stuff that you wouldn't expect him to be reading. Because like I said, many times he reads a lot of children's books. Like you wouldn't expect this high fantasy author to be reading children's books and writing reviews on them, but he is. Right. So, I mean, that's great work to be doing that kind of thing. And I'm sure it's an interest of his because he has children. But I mean, you're not just seeing an author read only specifically high fantasy by other white men, you know, so be supportive of other people, be supportive of all kinds of people.
Yes.
So we can have all kinds of representation in what we're reading. And the representation is good and not horrific.
Yeah. And it's not one note and it's well thought out. You know, that's
Yeah.
even me reading like just recently that one book where I was like, oh, they actually did the group of people justice. And they're like a traveling, roving like group, and haven't read that in a while. So I do think that that's a good know about like the Moiraine stuff. And we're not saying like men don't get brutalized in this novel. It's just like,
no, that's not
aware
the point,
of the type. Yeah. And like, don't be like, but all characters. No. And read diversely. Okay, so should we talk about Egwene?
Yeah.
I mean, she's
nothing
Brando.
Is fair to nothing is fair to Egwene ever.
Nope.
I just, and not that I'm sure people are gonna come after me. Life's not fair, but I mean,
but Egwene is the most capable, and she has the
way
worst
that
love
she
interest.
has to work so hard for everything and always have so many obstacles, and then Perrin can do things easily. I'm annoyed. Or the way that it's like she has to be with this terrible person who questions her all the time and says, I support you and love you so much. And like, do you? You're not very supportive. You don't seem like you actually do. I don't know how to feel about like, that relationship.
Again, it takes communication. Like, these books are full of miscommunications. It's a huge theme in these novels. I get it. But also, like, Egwene tells him exactly what she needs, and he walks all over those boundaries. And like,
because he doesn't respect her.
And she points it out all the time. You don't have respect for me. You do not listen. And it's like, well, I want to be your warder. If I were your warder, then I'd respect you. That's not how relationships work.
I feel like none of the characters in this series really do respect Egwene. None of the like major characters respect her.
They're all shocked when
but
she's
they make
capable.
It blatantly obvious with Gawain.
Yeah. Well, they're all shocked with Egwene, where it's like, oh, you mean she works harder than almost anyone in these novels? And she demands the most respect from most people who aren't main characters, but she still has zero and like has to talk to Nynaeve about like Nynaeve's attitude with her. And it's like, Nynaeve doesn't even pretend that she doesn't want to respect her. Like, Nynaeve blatantly does not want to respect Egwene, and Egwene has to like logically argue why she deserves her seat at the table. And
that whole interaction is just like Nynaeve coming to terms with like, oh yeah, I would do this for another Amyrlin, but not you. Oh wait, oh, I see what is happening. And it's just like, why can't we ever be on Egwene's side and be lifting her up? What is going on here with this? I don't understand the purpose of continually fighting against this, especially this far into the series, where even like the people from Emond's Field still don't support her. I'm confused by it.
It could be an argument. It could be an argument. It's not, because that's one of Hannah's favorite things to say. In a better written, storyline with Egwene, it would have been like her still fighting with the whole like precept of like, well, you were kind of handed the Amyrlin seat, but it's like, but she has literally only shown them why she should be in that seat. And there's no like fighting about it anymore. So if there was like a more interesting fight about it, that I would understand, but it just seems like people literally just don't respect this woman for no good reason.
Considering the point we're at now, where they're kind of, the towers are kind of back together again. It doesn't make sense for them to still be giving so much pushback.
Voted her in. They voted her in. They wanted it to be her. And like, they're still trying to trick her. Fine, whatever. That's what I said I do. But it just gets a little boring in one note to always be like, oh, Egwene, the most capable character in the world, has to deal with the most like shit from everyone around her. And she's not like, and that's the thing. It's like, Egwene has to fight. She's always like losing sleep. She's always doing this, that, and the other thing. And like, Matt literally just walks into stuff and he's like, well, it's going to work out because I'm lucky.
Oh, I'm lucky. It'll be fine.
And Perrin has people like falling all over him to take care of him. And Rand has 3 women because one's not enough. So it's like, she is probably one of the other main characters of this series. And she just gets the least amount of respect.
Right.
And
I also just don't enjoy the way that the relationships are between the women in this series, especially like the way that they've played out the Egwene and Nynaeve relationship, where they try to tell us that they're close and that it's like a foundation of friendship and, you know, like mutual experiences, and it's just not. And
No,
these are not friends. They're acquaintances that grew up in the same area. Nynaeve supposedly cares about Egwene, but I think really the only thing that is the connection there is just like, we're from the same area. I feel like a need to take care of people from my area. And beyond that, she doesn't really care for her. And I just hate the way that relationship especially is played out, where I don't think any of these women to women relationships are well done at all. But this one especially is bothersome because they try to make it seem like they're good friends when that's not how friendship works. I just don't like it.
Yeah, their relationship is really rough. They just don't like each other. It seems like there's no,
it's really strained
care. They don't care for each other. Like anytime they're together, it's like this big,
it's a working relationship.
Yeah.
Because it's even become that way. It became that way earlier on. I mean, it's been this way for a while, but I think Egwene wants to try and connect with Nynaeve and wants to gain respect from her and tries to, but she's just not going to get it. And Nynaeve cannot see her as someone worth respecting for whatever reason. And it's just not going to play out well. They have a connection to each other because they're both from Emmonsfield and knew each other. And there was kind of a mentorship situation happening in the past, but we've moved so far past that that it's not even worth mentioning, I guess, anymore at this point. But their relationship is more of just like a working relationship anymore, where it's like, look, Nynaeve, I need you to help me with this, and you're not helping. And
well, and that might be going back to like what you said about a lot of this book suffers from keeping people apart for far too long.
Yeah.
So like Egwene was really on her own for a lot of this novel. Cause like if you, and then they like every character she gets close to, they like rip out of her poor hands and hand right over to Elayne.
I know.
Cause like
they did that with Nynaeve, because
they did it with Nynaeve, where like Nynaeve and Egwene were like besties and they loved each other and they supported one another. And you could tell that Nynaeve had a lot of care for her. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, Elaine's the mediator between the two of them. And then all of a sudden it was Elayne and Nynaeve having a bunch of adventures. And then Egwene is like, fine, whatever. I found a new best friend. Her name is Aviendha. And they're like, nope, Aviendha.
And she's in love with Elayne.
Like, yeah, and she's in love with Elayne, and they're sisters, and they're gonna share a man, and they're gonna be besties. And so poor Egwene is like getting like mean girled over Elayne. And it's like, oh God, flashbacks to like middle school of like every girl who's like, but I'm so much fun. And it's like, but that one has blonde hair.
Yeah. And I don't see the draw to Elayne as a character.
No,
but
you mean Miss Pregnant lift me up in a bed because I want bed rest?
They don't understand pregnancy at all.
Oh my God, so bad.
They don't understand pregnancy.
You think?
Did they not watch the episode of Wheel of Time where Rand's mom was like being awesome as pregnant?
Right.
Like delivering and also fighting people, like, be real.
Nope.
But
I missed it, Laura.
Yeah, they missed that episode. I just, the women and their relationships with each other in this series are terrible. Terrible. The relationship between Elayne and Aviendha, majorly annoying.
So annoying. Sister.
Ugh, which they haven't made it back to each other yet, but
thank God for small favors.
Yeah, Aviendha is back also in this book trying to become something. She's a wise one, but Sanderson's trying to make her a thing, and it's just not happening. Quit trying to make Aviendha a thing.
Quick, trying to make fetch happen. It's never going to happen. Yeah. Avienda, I guess that's a good segue into Avienda, which is just like, she went to Riodia and she learned that you can pass through the rings again and you can learn all about your future. And like,
this time with clothes.
This time you don't have to be naked. We're done with the naked thing, Laura. And you're gonna find out that like you and Rand's children will bring about like the descent of evil. Pretty much.
I know.
You know, just normal things.
Yeah.
How'd
you feel about Elayne?
Elayne sucks. I hate Elayne. She's the worst. She's just Gregnet now. With her Gregs. And that's her only personality trait. She's being put on bed rest, lifted up in a giant ass bed to the top of a tower. She can't channel unless she really needs to channel, Laura. She has the deus ex machina of channeling, where she can definitely do it anytime the plot needs her to, and anytime it doesn't, she's done for. She has made Brigitte boring, and it's not good. It's just, they're making they're birthing dragons over there.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia and it's like Matt Cawthon and Elayne Trakand. Matt Cawthon meets enduring Queen Elayne Trakand at Camelin to discuss building dragons. Parentheses, artillery.
Who knows if that's true? It's real dragons.
I mean, it's so stupid. I hate everything about her. She's so boring now. That character was like, when we were introduced to Elayne, it's like she's supposed to be the mediator. She's supposed to be well thought out of and a queen. And what do we have? A kind of annoying person who hangs around a lot. But she's getting fat now because she's pregnant. Don't forget about how Matt thought she was getting fat now.
Matt, just why? Why do you have to say things?
He's a married man now. He wasn't looking. He's a married man now.
I don't like his wife, but
nobody likes his wife.
That character's terrible as well. I feel like Elayne is one of those characters though, where I'm just like, I've been over it for so long, and I'm just kind of.
She's just there now,
but annoying.
Her only goal is to steal all of Egwene's friends and convince Egwene that they're best friends. But behind closed doors, she's like, that bitch.
Kind of. It's mean girl.
Like, she is such a mean girl where she's like, of course I follow Egwene's rule because she's class president and I'm just the vice president. But also I have these votes in the bag and she needs my vote to pass anything. Mean girl Elayne. She even stole her name. Egwene Elayne.
Pretty close.
Pretty damn close. Yeah, I don't really care about Elayne anymore. She can go suck an egg.
Yeah.
How do we feel about Morgase and her tea pouring?
She's married.
She's married at the very end, and it's like so easily. I didn't want to get married because Elayne might need me to marry someone else, but I do love you. So
here's the thing.
Marry you.
Do you think we're done with Morgase?
I mean, I'm 50% through the next book, and I could tell you yes and no.
I want to be done with her. I was hoping that this would be the end because I'm like, why do we care about this? Why do we care?
Because she found love in this hopeless place, Laura.
No, I'm unconvinced.
What's her husband's name?
I don't know. It's that guy that's been in love with her
running around. Oh my god, what's his name? I don't know.
I was gonna say buyer, but that's not right. That's the white book.
That's not. Yeah, that's the drunkard. Oh, and then we also had Elayne who's like having a fight with Fael. Oh, because maybe we are done with Morgase after this, because I forgot. Morgase does see Elayne in this book. We're mixing up the books willy-nilly now.
We started the last book, so we're both kind of at the point where we're like,
I'm so close to being done right now. We're so close to being done, Laura.
I know.
I have 5 hours left in this series.
I'm hoping to finish it this week, so then I can like not read it in May.
I mean, same. I posted that I finally hit the last battle, which is chapter 37, and someone was like, "You're listening to it at 2.2 speed," and I'm like, "I understand what's going on. It's fine. Everything's fine."
If you can focus, I think it's fine.
Yeah, like I was meal prepping, so like you don't need to. 2.2 is fine if you're walking dogs and meal prepping. If I were trying to do things, you're right. Yeah. That's far too fast. But it's the only thing I'm doing that like needs concentration. So anyway, but like. Morghese and Elayne being like, Fael knows her stuff. What are we going to do now? I guess we have to make Perrin the steward of the 2 rivers. And it's like, I don't care. I don't care for this politicking. No. It's not that like Robert Jordan's books aren't great for the politics because literally they have civil wars whenever a new queen is needed. And that is stupid. Like, it just doesn't make sense why they have all these petty fightings all the time. So them being like, we need to make sure you pay taxes in the 13th book is way too late.
I was going to say some of the things that are brought in, you mentioning like the politics, it's just like at this point, we need to wrap it up quickly. We don't need to be discussing things in detail like this. It's more of a, who's going to be in charge? That person. Okay, move on. Who's going to be in charge of this? That person. Okay. Who's going to fight over there? That person. Okay. Just get it done.
The last time we brought up taxes was in the first book because I literally remember making the joke. She was like, he doesn't even like pay taxes.
I don't need to know about taxes. I don't need to know about ordinances. I don't need to know about any of this. I don't care how your roads are. I want to know who's going to the last battle and have you figured out what's going to happen after that. Like, just
it feels like Robert Jordan set up so many things that like Brandon Sanderson had to be like, well, first I need to fix all the characters and then I need to like get rid of all the plot holes that he left for me. And then we can fight all the time. And it's like, oh God, these are like my least favorite things of all of these things. Like, I don't care about any of this. So yeah, I do hope Morghese is done. If she isn't in the last book, I plumb forgot or thought it was the last book about this book.
I'm kind of just hoping that that's the tie up for her and now she's gone.
Elayne
she's mentioned again to just like be like, okay.
Elayne, again, they try to fix her character way too late where it's like, no, she wasn't a predator. There were other reasons she was doing that. It was because she thought Rand promised her Perrin by having them travel together.
No.
What was up with that storyline? No. Like, no. She was a predator. We knew it. This isn't appropriate. So
it's too late.
It's too late to say sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's too late. Elayne will stick around just for her wedding to Galad, I'm sure. But otherwise,
2 bats Galad.
Can you explain what that means? Just for the second part of the podcast group.
Just for people who don't listen to the first part, just heard me say 2 bats out of nowhere.
The people that jumped in at 30 minutes.
Oh God.
Yeah, I feel like some of these characters are sticking around just for the purpose of us being like, epilogue. Elayne and Galad ended up, you know how they like at the end of movies they have the epilogue where it's like the words at the bottom and it's just like, oh, so and so ended up doing this. It's like Elayne and Galad ended up being terrible people, but are married, so at least only one couple.
And you have like Avi end up being like, oh, we set forth all the things for the Senchen coming in, like all of this stuff that I'm like, that's way too much plot to be putting in the 13th novel. Like, what? No, wrap it up. You're right. Like, there's too many plot holes that are still hanging on with their claws.
I get the need as someone who, I'm sure Brandon Sanderson is one of these people that appreciates details and likes to know the reasons why things happen. So this is probably the motivation behind this, is to try and fix these issues and give reasons for why things are happening and what is going to happen. But at this point, you need to just, rather than like get more in depth on something, just quickly tie it up and move on.
Then we have Nynaeve, who is barely in this plot. she's there to get yelled at.
She is now
and
finally connected to Lan.
Oh my God. And like the last final seconds where it's just like, oh my God, Nynaeve. Like, yeah, she's not even mentioned in the synopses on Towers of Midnight on the Wikipedia. So
okay,
yeah, that's about as important to the plot as she is.
Juan's still awful.
Juan is the worst. She is terrible. I hate her so much. Fortuona, she got rid of her other name, Laura.
Okay, we know who it is. Still don't approve. I don't know. There's a lot going on with a lot of these characters. I'm kind of blending too much of the next book into my thoughts at the moment. Unfortunately, listeners, I'm sorry.
No, we gave you guys a great discussion of Egwene. That's pretty much all there is left for interesting characters in these books from where we're sitting.
I really feel like, though, Egwene is the character worth talking about the most. Mm-hmm. Because of the issues with that character.
I do find her to be one of the, like, I think we always talked about the main characters, but like by the time we get through all 14 books, I would say the main characters who have like character arcs and growth are literally Rand.
It's the Emmons Fielders,
Perrin, and Egwene. But Nynaeve doesn't really get one anymore.
Nynaeve has kind of become more of a Moiraine type secondary character.
Like she got pushed down really quickly. And so that kind of sucks a little bit, Which
may just be because I don't know if Sanderson knows what.
He has no idea what to do with Nynaeve. That man has no clue what to do with her.
Oops. But yeah, I think at this point I am kind of done with calling out all the problems that I see in a lot of these women characters. We've gone on and on and on and on and on and on and on about it. What more can we say about some of these characters? It's just more of the same. Unfortunately, a lot of these issues are not being resolved in ways that are easy to do, or ways that make clear sense. Because I mean, Sanderson is trying to clear up some of the issues with some of these characters, but like Elayne is a great example of one that you can't just do that with. You just can't do that with and make it okay or make sense. So yeah, I think we're both kind of just at the point where there's a lot of flaws, a lot of issues with these characters, and there's not a lot to say about them because things are happening, not a lot of things, not enough to warrant a big discussion.
Right.
But there's still problems. And
I mean, last week I think like a huge issue with this book and talking about the characters is this wasn't exactly a character heavy book. Like there weren't a lot of growth within the actual characters.
There's less discussion. It's just a lot of things are wrapping up and happening to get to the last battle.
Yeah.
Sanderson's trying to wrap this up. If Jordan were still around, I feel like we would be honored.
We would have 25 books. Yeah.
This series would still be going.
Because we would never have picked up a 25 book series. Right. We would have known the 14 was too much, but we would have not. Yeah. Well, I think that's a good way to end. It's just like, it just feels like this book, not a ton of character growth. So characters were especially hard for us to discuss, which is why you got so much on Heartstopper. So go watch Heartstopper, guys.
Heartstopper is amazing.
It's so cute. It's so cute, guys. And then please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to us. Rating, reviewing, and subscribing.
Oh, did we announce the winner of?
Oh no, we didn't. Thank you. Oh my gosh.
Sorry to cut you off.
No.
Yes, rate, review, and subscribe. Give us 5 stars on all the places. Follow us on OWWR Pod on Instagram and Twitter.
But
also email us ourpod@gmail.com.
Okay, thank you for all of that. Laura's never done that before, so thank you for doing that. Usually I do the wrap up stuff. I love it. But yeah, we have an announcement because we have the winner for our indie intermission after we finish reading Wheel of Time. We will be covering Olivia Hill's #IHunt or I Hunt for an entire month in June. We're so excited. She went out. We were discussing her last week on the platform. We were like, we would be flabbergasted if she lost because her following really came in. It's huge. Like she got so many votes for our silly little Twitter polls. We do want to thank every single person who we did vote for in this. We love you all so much.
It was so okay. So I was a little nervous about this poll. We had talked about this because neither of us wanted anybody to have hurt feelings over this situation. And we tried to say a couple times, like, we're going to read all of these books, and we intend to read all of these. Our plan going forward is to read an indie book in between some of these
every
bigger
series. Yeah.
So we intend to read all of them, and we're going to keep adding to the list, as people recommend things to us. But we were nervous that with this vote that people would get their feelings hurt by like getting knocked out in a round or something like that. But the way that the authors were so supportive and nice about it, and some of them were like, oh, this is not going to be good. I can't imagine why people would be voting for me. And I thought it was so cute the way that they were so supportive of each other and saying, you know what, so-and-so beat me this round. I'm going to go out and buy their book. Or I beat so-and-so. I'm going to go out and buy their book. You should too. And the way that other like people were hearing about these books and be like, I haven't heard of this one, but that sounds like an awesome name. I voted for so-and-so, but I'm going to get this book because that's an awesome title. So
and that was Laura is telling the honest truth when she says she was nervous, and I was nervous, and we were both nervous at different periods of time where one of us was like, is voting the right way to go about this? What do we want to do? But we really wanted to highlight every indie author we've gotten to know while we've been doing this podcast. And like, everyone is so wonderful. Everyone's so amazing and supportive in such a great way. And everyone took it exactly how it was, which was like, this is just supposed to be a fun way to show people new titles that they may not have known about. And like, we shared it on our Instagram. We shared it on Brews and Books Instagram. So like, the whole point of it is to make sure people are reading these books. So please read these books.
I tried to do it for a while on my new Instagram, but I am new to Instagram and not
it's hard sometimes. I literally have to have like a set timer on my phone every day at 2 to post. So like, that's how I do it. But like, we were so appreciative that everyone loved it and had a good time. Of course, if anyone ever has hard feelings over like, if you're not in the right headspace to vote, you could just DM us and be like, not this time, guys. And we would 1,000% understand, because our intention is never to offend anyone or make our standalone showdown got pretty intense at times because it was like Brandon Sanderson up against like other people. But we wanted it to be a happy space.
We totally understand like authors have thick skin. They have to deal with reviews and things like that. Not all of them are going to be great, but we just wanted this to be not necessarily a total competition where we're like putting down like that one should lose. We didn't want it to be like that. We wanted this to be more of a way to highlight authors to get their name out there. And it's a way for us to decide without Hannah and I having to like go through and decide like, okay, we've got 17 books here. Which one should we read? So it helps us out to have people vote. And
exactly. So we're so excited to read I Hunt. We think it'll be amazing. People seem to love it. I will be posting.
If it's not, I blame that person.
We blame you. No, of course not. I will be posting the ISBN number on our Twitter accounts just so you can make sure you order the right one. Because there's a game that goes along with it. So we want you to read the actual book and go out and get it ordered because we will be covering it in June. So it's important to get it now.
Tuesday.
Yay! I don't know when mine will be here, but it will be here when the bookstore calls me. But we're very excited about that. So do all those things. Follow us on all the social platforms and join us next week to cover the last book of the Wheel of Time. We'll be covering the prologue through chapter 25. It's gonna be big, guys.
It's gonna be big.
Bye.
Bye.